This episode is brought to you by Peacock. The new Peacock original documentary, Matthew Perry, A Hollywood Tragedy, dives deep into the beloved actor's rise to fame and his tragic death. 5 people, including Perry's personal assistant, 2 medical doctors, and an alleged Hollywood drug dealer known as the Ketamine Queen, were charged with conspiracy to illegally provide Perry with the ketamine. Explore the details of the case in this heartbreaking special, streaming now only on Peacock.
At T-Mobile, our critical mission is providing unparalleled 5G coverage for when connectivity is mission critical. Introducing T-Priority, America's best 5G network experience for first responders, even in times of congestion. More capacity, faster speeds, better coverage. T-Priority from T-Mobile, built for tomorrow's emergencies, ready today. Discover more at t-priority.com.
For qualifying organizations on eligible rate plans, coverage not available in some areas and may be impacted by emergencies.
Hi, it's Dave here. This is my wife, Kathy.
Hello.
This is the Cinemile. It's the podcast where we walk home from the movies. But today we're decided not to go to the movies because there's not a lot at the movies at the moment. There's Captain America and Bridget Jones are just eating up all the screens. There's The Monkey came out, which is a horror film, but that's not really your vibe.
A lot of people have recommended that to us, though, on Instagram.
The Monkey?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe we should have gone to The Monkey. But we're not. We've decided we're going to stay at home and watch Apple TV Plus's The Gorge. So this movie, I saw the trailer for this a while back. I've got a list of things that I want to see, and often I'll watch a trailer and then turn it off as soon as it's got me hooked. And I wrote this on the list because it's got a high concept that I'm sure will be disastrous, but it's intriguing. Do you know what it is? Will I tell you? Will I tell the listeners?
I know it's Anya Taylor-Joy and Miles Teller.
That's right. So imagine this.
They're at a gorge.
They're at a gorge. So imagine this. They're recruited. They're I don't know. It's like military people. They're super cool action heroes. And
She's a great action hero.
She is great. Furiosa, fantastic. So they are recruited to man outposts on either side of a gorge, right? And so they're working for, one of them is working for the US, the other's working for Russia, and the gorge is filled with fog and mystery, and their job is to stop whatever's in the gorge from getting out.
I mean, it's a great setup.
What's in the gorge, Kathy?
It's basically Jon Snow and the White Walkers, is it?
I don't know. I have to know what's in that gorge.
Yeah.
And this is the thing with mystery box TV shows. I'll often I can't do it because they want you to stay there for 6 seasons until they reveal. But if it's a 2-hour movie mystery box, I'm in. So I don't care. I literally don't care if this is going to be garbage. I just want to know what's in the gorge, and I'll be happy.
And I want to see. I always liked Miles Teller as an actor as well, so I'm interested to see them together. And it's done quite well, right, in terms of success for Apple.
Yeah, this is so Apple TV Plus haven't, like all the streamers, they haven't revealed any figures. But they have said, so we don't know, maybe no one's listening to this because few people have Apple TV Plus. But
well, a lot of people, it's a clever time for them to release it because a lot of people have Apple TV Plus right now to watch Severance.
And they gave it away free, didn't they, for a few weeks?
They gave away
recently.
Apple for a free weekend, just enough to get people hooked on Severance Season 1.
Yeah.
Then Severance 2 came back, and now they've brought this movie out, so I'd say they've a lot of eyes on them.
Well, they are on the up, so they have confirmed that this movie is their biggest opening movie of all time. It has beaten Wolves with George Clooney and Brad Pitt.
The movie that quite literally nobody was talking about.
No one was talking about, and it and also, speaking of Severance, they've revealed also that is now the most watched show, beating Ted Lasso.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So they are hot right now.
Yeah, I'd say it will do well. I'm looking forward to watching it. Let's go, and we'll come back after we've seen it.
See you shortly.
Bye.
There she is, West Tower Observation Post. Your home for the next 365 days. There is no outside communication here.
What's that on the other side?
That is East Tower. Contact with the other side is strictly forbidden.
So what's the mission? To keep people from going in the gorge?
No. You need to stop what's in the gorge from coming out.
What the hell is that?
The gorge is the door to hell. And we're standing guard at the gate.
okay, we're back and we know what's in the gorge, but you don't. And if you don't want to know what's in the gorge, then you could go watch the movie The Gorge.
I mean, there's nothing in the gorge. The people are just there to guard it, you know.
That's it. Spoiler alert. There's nothing in there. They were just like, oh, nothing there. We won't spoil what's in the gorge for you yet until, of course, we turn on to Spoiler Street. Kathy, what do you think of the movie The Gorge without revealing what's in the gorge? How many times can I say gorge?
Stop saying it. So it's essentially like 2 movies, which I wasn't expecting. The first movie being a rom-com that I really enjoyed.
I wouldn't say com.
A bit of com.
There's not much com here.
A lot of rom.
This is rom. It's a rom.
I had a really good time with that bit in particular. I really bought these two as characters. I think the setup was really good. We get a bit of Sigourney Weaver as well for some intrigue. There's very few actors in this, but the actors are all very good. Do you know what? I had such a good time with it. About halfway through the movie, it pivots into movie part B, different film, and I rolled my eyes and went out and made a cup of tea.
You didn't like the... You weren't happy with this shift at all.
Yeah, so I was a bit unhappy with part 2. But then it did all come together, and do you know what? I did it. I actually enjoyed myself. I think this was a good time. It's hard to talk about without speaking to spoilers, so we might get to spoiler street fairly quickly on this one. But just the central premise of these two people kind of at the edge of the world over a gorge, like I mentioned Game of Thrones at the beginning, you know, the idea of the people who are like at the wall and what are they guarding, like that's the feeling of it.
Yeah.
And it had a really interesting kind of history. Yeah, great use of...
You mean
visuals.
lore, like history?
Yeah, the lore of the film and great use of visuals, and honestly, Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy had brilliant chemistry together, so yeah. I had a good time with it most of the time, and I do recommend it if you're at home. You got Apple TV Plus, I would say watch it.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was good. It's not great, but it's also way better than I expected it to be and needed it to be.
I mean, we've just seen Captain America. This is like...
Oh, I thought
so much better than that.
Far
film.
more interesting than that, and that's a word I would apply to this. Anything could have been in the gorge, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Anything, and what it was in the gorge, I did find somewhat novel and interesting. It surprised me.
Yeah.
So I gotta give the movie credit for that, and also everything around the gorge stuff. Like that's all. I went in to know what was in the gorge. I found out what was in the gorge. I would have been satisfied, but I actually had a pretty good time. I think this film is largely entertaining. I don't think
it's a bit of a genre mix. It's like
it's
romantic
interesting.
Stuff, there's action stuff. There's kind of horror stuff. There's enough going on here, you know, that you're like, this isn't not a derivative, boring film, which is saying a lot for a streamer movie, right?
Yes, and at times it does feel a little streamer movie, but for a lot of it actually elevates itself above that. Mm-hmm. Like I was surprised at some, like for what has got to be 98% green screen soundstage.
Yeah.
It looked pretty good, and a lot of the action was staged well. A lot of the production design is good, and I agree with you. I thought the lore was better than it needed to be.
Yeah.
Now there's some of that plot stuff is a bit creaky as soon as you start to think about it, but best not to think about it. Yeah.
And look, they have Furiosa in there doing her thing. It must have been interesting for her as an actress to go from the Mad Max franchise, where she's actually doing everything and it's all really happening, to being entirely in a soundstage, which is where I presume this film was. But she just gives it socks and everything. And Miles Teller is one of those actors who, obviously, we all loved him with Whiplash. I remember him being in Divergent, which I liked. He was obviously good in Top Gun Maverick, but I've never quite seen him in this type of role. This is essentially the role he's playing is would have been Chris Pratt if it was cast 10 years ago.
Oh, it's such a Chris Pratt role.
But he's actually better than that, and he's very good. And together they really elevated the film, both of them. They're really good actors. And I think maybe in other actors' hands it wouldn't have been as good, but they really kind of drove with their charisma, I think. And they're both very good action stars.
Honestly, I'm going to say this right now. If Chris Pratt's face had been in this poster with Anya Taylor-Joy, I don't think I could have watched it.
I just would have been I've seen him doing this. I wouldn't have been interested.
He has played this role far too many times.
Yeah. So it was actually, I think Miles Teller was such good casting. I think we should go to spoilers. What do you think?
Yes, let's go to spoilers. So we're going to go to Spoiler Street. We're going to turn onto it, but before we do, you might hear a quick ad. Okay, so full spoilers now for The Gorge. We're going to tell you what's in The Gorge.
Before we
You
get
ready?
to The Gorge, though,
Go on.
can I say that I think the pacing of the movie was very good at the beginning, in that we spent a bit of time with her being a better sniper than the Jackal, which I love. We spend a bit of time with him. I just think if you're ever interviewed by Sigourney Weaver and she's like, so just remind me, is there anyone in the world who'll miss you if we disappear you? I don't think I'd take the mission. And then we kind of get his handover.
I liked the handover.
The handover was so good. And then
Yeah.
that poor guy is like, boy, am I glad to see you. And the soldier's like,
I felt bad for him.
yeah, I felt bad for him too. But that was already, I was like, this film is way more interesting than I expected it to be.
He was in surprisingly chipper form,
because
though,
it was his last
for
day.
someone who, I suppose it was his last day, but also imagine a year, basically, but a year by yourself. Like people
they've
go
all-
mad in solitary confinement from
They've all
like
been up to all sorts
30
with,
days.
with the Eastern counterparts, though.
They are kept busy. Yeah.
But, like,
do you
also-
reckon he was chatting away to his? Yeah.
No one in that situation, like, there's nothing else to do. Like, they might not be like abseiling across it like Miles Teller, but like, of course they're all talking.
Yeah.
And also I presume he's about to be paid,
Well, I
so
don't-
he thinks, like,
I don't
millions
know.
of dollars. So he's like he'll never have to work again.
I think it takes the right personality type to actually spark a conversation. Because don't forget, Miles Teller's character Levi was very against talking to her initially. Like he said, it's they were told don't interact with
Yeah,
your.
but he
and
said it once.
they're soldiers. They follow orders.
Yeah, but he said it once and then he gave in. Like, he's so bored.
Well, yeah. I
And you're
suppose.
like, what harm? There's a giant gorge between us. And luckily it so happens we're both
Just-
gorge.
It's just you and me on the
We're
gorge.
both very attractive, gorgeous people.
Very good.
Another person in his youth that could have played the Miles Teller character very well would have been like Jared Butler, maybe. Like, he's just that
Oh yeah.
character.
Yeah.
I
And
thought
I gotta
the
say, I
chemistry
haven't
was so good.
seen Miles Teller do this character. This character, I say, because this is just a blank action movie
Okay,
guy
for anyone
who's also a poet. When he was sitting at the beach at the beginning writing poetry, I was like, oh
So
god.
this is just for anyone
Really?
who's on spoiler street, because if they haven't seen it. So this is him by day: sniper, mass murderer, American intelligence, no family,
I'm the
no
best
one
of
who
the
loves
best.
him. But then in the evenings he takes poetry classes in his local community college. He writes poetry every day and reads poetry every day. He dances fabulously. We find out he's a wonderful dancer. So he is straight out of a Nicholas Sparks. He's also a MacGyver-esque type.
He's absurd. He's an absurd.
It's like
He's a manic pixie soldier boy. That's what he is.
he's an absurd character. Anya Taylor-Joy is a more grounded, believable character than him.
Well,
she's also very
sorry,
fun.
let's not go too far.
He's-
Grounded and believable.
He's just so unbelievable that, like,
sure, yeah.
and then, like, honestly, when they're writing the notes to each other across the gorge, like, I was so into this romance. Like, when he finally just flew over the gorge.
It was quite nice when they finally met,
was
and I was
lovely.
rooting for them.
I was rooting for them, and then they have this wonderful night together, and then he falls into the gorge, and thus began the movie that I truly had no interest in watching.
That's when it lost you.
Then
So
you got more into it, and I got less into it.
I know it's interesting. Let's reveal to everyone then what was in the gorge, because I'm conscious some people just don't give two shits and might just be listening to this to find out what's in the gorge. So, the gorge contains.
It wasn't White Walkers; it was actually baby Groot.
You weren't far off though. They were White Walkery of sorts. They were just tree instead of frost, but they certainly resembled White Walkers. So there was. So we're introduced at the beginning that this gorge has existed since 1947. There's been a different person on either side manning it. So there was the Allied side, the UK and the British were manning one side. The Eastern Bloc were manning the other
Already,
side.
there's a huge flaw with this because they roam at night. You need two people on each side.
Yeah, why wouldn't they have a day and night watch? Exactly. It didn't make any sense. So this is one of the most important things. We got to keep this like this. If these things get out, the world is over.
Or why
And
don't they just have drones?
why just stick one person on each side? But they do have drones and all that stuff. But
So, like,
you're right, you should have a day and night shift, because clearly if you're not paying attention, there's a huge, like, one of the mines goes off and makes a big hole in the fence, and then they can easily get in.
Yeah, it's like the lack of planning is audacious.
Yeah.
Considering how much planning has gone around this.
I think the movie's trying to tell us it's supposed to be, they're trying to keep it under wraps and keep it secret because they kill the people at the end of their year-long shift. But like, just kill two people. I mean, I don't understand why you don't have two people there.
Because you need Levi
or a team
and his girlfriend to write sloppy love notes across
That is
Gorge.
the only reason. The only reason that there is no reason that makes sense in the movie's universe except the movie needs love to happen.
Yeah. Which I'm down with.
But anyway, inside the Gorge. So you during the war, they reference Oppenheimer developing his atom bomb, and in parallel to that, there was a biochemical division in the Gorge, which was a joint task force between the Russians, the British, and the Americans.
It's a bit like Captain America's super serum-y.
Yeah, exactly. They were developing something down there, which naturally broke out and infected all the scientists
and turned them all into trees.
Yeah, so it combined the genetic material of
trees,
the human beings, of everything. So the trees became organic. Well, they're already organic, excuse me. They kind of meshed with the flesh and blood. So what you got was, I thought some of the creature design was super cool here. When Miles Teller first falls into the Gorge, he gets stuck to this sticky sap of the tree that pulls him in, and these teeth kind of emerge and try to eat him. It was like, there's some really interesting horror stuff. So the director of this, Scott Derrickson, is a horror guy traditionally. He did Sinister, amongst other things, and Doctor Strange, oddly, did an MCU movie. And I think he does a good job of all the horror stuff here. I think it's creepy. It's very, you called it when we were watching it, it's kind of like the Upside Down of Stranger Things.
Oh, that's the bit when I said I'm leaving the room, like I'm going to make coffee or tea. You can just continue without me.
You weren't interested in the horror action scenes of
them wandering around. I wasn't interested. But then, in fairness to the film's credit, because I panicked when I saw how much time was left. I'm like, oh, we're stuck down here. But then the film moved and continually moved faster than I expected it to. And we ended up with some quite fun action scenes. Yeah. And you know, it's a good idea when you're surrounded by like evil tree monsters to just set some shit on fire. I enjoyed the stuff of them like driving up the cliff face together.
That's a pretty good action set piece. Yeah, the Jeep going up the cliff.
What about the, oh look, here's an old projector and a reel.
Come here.
And of course, Miles Teller and
it said, God forgive us.
Manic Pixie Miles Teller knows how to like fully set up a projector reel, and they watch the tape, and I just enjoyed all that stuff of the scientist who's like, you have 5 days to quarantine. This is what happened to me, and she lifts up her top, and it's like she's turning into a tree trunk.
I don't know like a single thing about chemistry, biology, or infectious diseases. But I don't think if literally they say that the thing is in the gas, it's in the fog in the Gorge, like that they are constantly breathing. How are they not infected?
Well,
like how it doesn't make any sense.
When they're like, some people are more immune than others, we're like, all right, so one of our lead characters are going to die.
Well, that's what I thought.
And should have.
I thought it seemed so set up. He's written her a poem.
Yeah.
She hasn't read it, so he's going to die. And then the end will be her reading his poem.
Almost right.
And sleeping. Or weeping, sorry, not sleeping. And yeah,
she needs to sleep
but the movie, I thought the ending was a little confused.
Yeah.
It was like, it kind of just gave us all the endings.
Like, it ended on what you said.
Yeah, here's that ending, here's the sad ending, but also it's like the movie got scared and we'd be like, oh, but also here's a happy ending where we do The Dark Knight Rises.
I can't purport to have paid full attention to the dialogue at all times, and neither can you, right? Because you know when you're
and a lot of it was a little creaky as well.
Watching at home is different from the cinema. You just innately pay a little bit less attention, I find.
Although fantastic, sorry, just I'll go back to you in a sec. I just would like to highlight a fantastic feature of Apple TV Plus. Again, not sponsored, but please hit us up, Apple. where we discovered, whereas if you miss a line of dialogue, as everybody often does, if you rewind to catch it, it flicks the subtitles on for however long you rewind it, so 10, 20 seconds, and then switches them off again. That's really great.
The best functions I've ever seen as a viewer.
It's so good. Anyway,
that
Kathy,
included, I can't say for sure we paid 100%, so when I make this point I may be wrong, but at the very end, in what felt like the tacked on ending, Anya Taylor-Joy is like a waitress in a restaurant, which first of all confused me, because like surely, like if she's the world's best sniper, she's done all these famous kills. surely she's loaded, right?
Maybe she spent it all.
We've seen Day of the Jackal. We know what kind of money these people earn.
Maybe she spent it all on a big house like he did
And secondly,
in Spain.
then he's sitting in the restaurant. So I'm like, and he's there, and then they have their crap ending. So I'm like,
Because he had to recover from his injury.
but at what point were they like, was she like, my family owns a restaurant, or I own a restaurant, or there's this particular restaurant that, like, despite being a millionaire, I will go and be a waitress in.
And how did he find her?
Yeah, that bit just all threw me. But again, look, one of our listeners might say it did come up in a point where we missed it. I don't know. But that bit was just...
The ending was shit.
But the ending before that was so good, where she was lying on the rock reading his poem.
I wouldn't even say that was so good. It was fine.
No, but it was poignant,
better.
you know?
Yeah.
Like, they shared this beautiful time together, and now she's reading the letter and he's just
Yeah,
gone.
I feel like
But he would have been better, though, genuinely. He should have turned into a tree.
I think they shot two endings. I guarantee you the writer wanted the original ending. The sad ending. And then the studio were probably like, no, let's give him a happy ending.
But we knew he wasn't even dead. Like,
and then they ended up just doing both.
But even if he had died, like, he was only dead from, like, falling in the river. Like, I want full tree transformation. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is kind of a sci-fi horror as well. And, like, there's no physical effect in our protagonists from, as you say, being down in the gorge, like, breathing in gas. And I know they were only there for a few hours, but, like, they had wounds. I don't know. It just... bit of a cop-out, but look, that aside, and it's raining, so we're going to have to get off. But that aside, I had a really good time with this film, I have to say.
Yeah, it's good
I really
crack.
enjoyed myself.
Yeah.
I just, in the middle, went, wait, what am I thought I was watching, like, a rom-com.
It does pivot. But surely you must have known they were, like, the gorge was either going to come out or they go into the gorge.
I knew they were going to go in the gorge,
Yeah.
right? But it happened about 30-40 minutes in.
I know, it was about halfway through, wasn't
And
it?
I was just like, well... I thought it would happen in, like, the third act.
Yeah, okay.
So that's when I was like, oh no, are we going to spend the whole film down here? And I panicked, but we didn't, and they took us back out of the gorge again.
Okay. All right, well, listen, I'd love to hear what you think of the gorge. Let us know at the Cinemile on Instagram, Letterboxd, YouTube, Blue Sky, or email us thecinemile@gmail.com, or you can come and talk to us and all of our lovely patrons over at patreon.com/The Cinemile, where we're still doing weekly Severance reviews. We're going to do a White Lotus spoiler check-in on the episodes that have aired so far. We do monthly sort of spoiler-free roundups of all the stuff we've been watching, and we'll be doing a retro movie this month. It's an SNL themed movie to celebrate the 50th anniversary, and there'll be a vote that you can vote in.
So will be a movie starring some SNL people. We've some great suggestions in the chat already, from like Blues Brothers to Mean Girls. We're there.
Yes.
And see you soon.
And that's patreon.com/The Cinemile. And hey, leave us a review, please. That'd be nice wherever you're listening. Say something nice. Say I know. Give us 5 stars and say I know what's in the gorge. They'll know.
Thank you.
We'll all know. Bye.
We'll know. Bye.
This place is evil.
Unexplored catacombs buried beneath the city. A crumbling castle perched on a mountain peak. A top-secret government bunker. A cursed mansion cloaked in legend. I'm Sasha Auerbach. Join me and Tom Ward every Wednesday and Sunday as we reveal the mysteries and histories of abandoned places around the world and ask, where did everyone go? Brought to you by Like a Shot, makers of Forbidden History. Search for Where Did Everyone Go on your favorite podcast platform.